Hello, my name is Jake Crocker. It's a pleasure to be back with you with the Crusades. I was here last week and had a little bit of fireworks, but I enjoyed my time. And I was a member years ago, back when we were always meeting over on Chamberlain Avenue, when Antoine Green was in charge. So it's a pleasure to be back and be welcomed back as a candidate and as a libertarian candidate, which is the party I am seeking to represent in the House of Delegates, representing the 69th District. Mr. Walker covered a good part of it, but it does, most people don't speak in districts, so it does cover neighborhoods like Uptown and Carytown and Maymont, Organ Hill, Bird Park, on this side of the river, and the other side, pretty much a good chunk of South Richmond in that one little lonely precinct in Chesterfield County. But we don't want to forget them either. They are a part of the district that we will be representing, and Ms. Carr has been representing for the last several election periods. Currently, about me, I am a restaurant operator here in the city of Richmond. I co-own F.W. Sullivan's, Lady Nolan's Cajun Cafe, and Uptown Market and Deli, up on Main Street in Uptown, the Fan District. I have been active in the community for many years. Most recently, I was the president of the Uptown Civic Association. We got a lot of positive things done. I had a great working relationship with our then councilman, Marty Jewell, who was here with us last week, so we had a little mini reunion, but disappointed not to see him out there today.
He'll be coming.
We'll have a good conversation after. But Marty was great to work with. We liked working with him. And I was also recently president of the Fan Area Business Alliance, and it was a group that represented small, homegrown businesses, from everything from restaurants to bookstores to folks developing websites in their bedroom. They were all members of that group, and we thought that was a good way to work together and generate positive economic growth for both Uptown, Fan, and Museum districts of Richmond. I'm from right here in Richmond, Virginia. I was born just a few blocks from here. I'm going to get my geography right. At MCV Hospital. My earliest memories are from here, and we lived, when I was very young, we lived in the East End off 9 Mile Road. My father was a football and wrestling coach and a gym coach teacher at what was then Armstrong Kennedy High School in the late 70s, now just Armstrong High School. And as so many, he left for greener pastures to Henrico County and worked many years there. I'd like to see Richmond schools to one day be that greener pasture, but that's a discussion for a little longer than 3 minutes. Although my opponent has always been supportive of my restaurants and endeavors, and she's always been very gracious, and I've always appreciated that, I decided to run to seek this office for the following reasons. I do believe in choice. I believe in democracy. Although I have primarily voted over the last decade for Democratic candidates, I felt my vote, not just in this district but in the city, was being taken for granted with uncontested elections. And to no fault of my opponent, this was indeed the case. Also to no fault of my opponent, but to detriment to our country, I got our party's failure to unite around a common vision was ultimately the result of last November's unfortunate outcome of the presidential election. So, wasn't happy about that, decided to look at other options. I have been a libertarian not a libertarian in running, but a libertarian in mindset for many years, which are very socially liberal, believe very much in personal freedoms that are guaranteed in the Constitution of the United States. But I also believe in fiscal responsibility. And anybody who's watched any of the local news or read the Times-Dispatch and Richmond Magazine style, I'm a constant quote for calling out our city on wasting taxpayer money. And this is our excessive taxes in Richmond are a burden to not just its small, locally homegrown businesses, but also to you, the citizens. And one of the things I've been outspoken about is we keep taking that money, we're not giving it, we're not putting it in the right place. This office has an opportunity to help see that that money goes to the right place. Instead of, I'm a long-suffering, like my friend Lamont here, I'm a long-suffering Redskins fan. And if Dan Snyder's a billionaire, he didn't need our money. He doesn't need your money. And also, $23 million of state and city tax money that came out of your pockets did not need to go to build a West Coast brewery, which is Stone Brewery Company over in Fulton. And that brewery not only had cost the taxpayers money, it was set up to compete. It'll be not only just a brewery, but it'll be the largest restaurant in the city of Richmond when it's built. And we have many locally owned, homegrown businesses that will be competing against and has generated jobs. And the city and the state has given us nothing. We don't ask for anything. But we'd like to see that money spent responsibly so it's helping you, the citizens, because it is your money. I got tired of talking about the problem and speaking about the problem and decided to help seek office and possibly solve it. That is why I'm running. Thank you all for having me. Thank you, Mr. Walker, for reaching out and tracking me down. And once again, my name is Jake Crocker. Information about, you can follow my campaign at jakecrocker.com. And hopefully we will have your vote on November 7th. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chair.
I want to thank the Crusade for organizing this forum and providing the opportunity for us to come together and talk about issues that are important to all of us. During the time that I have had the privilege of serving in the House of Delegates, I've worked to prioritize the citizens of our district and their needs. I've been a strong advocate for job creation and bettering our public schools. Children need modern, technologically equipped classrooms with good teachers so they have every opportunity to succeed. We need better workforce training. Not all students want or need to enroll in higher education. Students do need to be prepared for skilled, good-paying jobs. Improving public education will improve our economy. I have strongly supported rights restoration. Once a person has served his punishment, he or she should have every opportunity to re-enter society and become a productive citizen with all the rights and privileges that accompany that. I have opposed all measures to restrict voting and make it more difficult. We need to excuse absentee voting and provide more resources to shorten lines. We need to expand voting, not repress it. In light of what is going on in Washington with the leadership there and the events in Charlottesville, it is very clear that we need to maintain vigilance and rededicate ourselves to civil rights. We need to make certain that those who have crawled out from under their rocks go back and stay there. There's no place for their hatred and violence in Virginia or in America. I have fought for Medicaid expansion to help ensure that all Virginians have the right to quality, affordable health care. I've worked for common sense gun safety measures to get the proliferation of weapons like assault rifles off of our street. While lots of progress has been made, there's still lots of work to be done. Working as a member of the minority party, my colleagues and I often face challenges in the General Assembly. However, we work hard every day to ensure that our values are represented and advanced. Through my committee assignments in the House, to appropriations, general laws, transportation, and rules, as well as a service on some commissions that deal with housing and with ensuring that taxpayer money is spent appropriately and efficiently, I am able to ensure that our values get fair hearing at all stages of the legislative process. I look forward to hearing our discussion this evening. Thank you for having me.
Between Charlottesville and Richmond, and spent the majority of my adult life here in Richmond. Well, enough about myself. I want to take the time to let y'all know why I'm running. When I continuously see how the General Assembly has acted in the interest of corporations instead of acting in the interest of the people, it bothers me, it disturbs me, and I get sick and tired of seeing how companies like Dominion Energy, like Raytheon, like Comcast, Verizon, and AT&T have more priority in legislation than the rest of us in this audience. And I believe that it's about time to instill that change, not only in the 69th District, but in the General Assembly overall. So I urge everybody in this audience, regardless of whether you live, y'all see my literature passed out on the table, take that literature home with you. Wherever y'all live, whether it's the 74th, 69th, 73rd, wherever you live at, pressure whoever's running in your district to support what I'm running on. Because everything that I stand for, it makes sense. And there's no reason why the General Assembly has not fought for it already. Thank you.
Thank you, man. You get one point.
Oh, how long, go ahead. 2 minutes. 2 minutes? Oh, okay. Thank you for the question. As a business owner, I'm all about economic development. I started my business in 2009. I had lost my job in the ad agency as a result of recession, unfortunately. When the bubble burst, so did my former company. And so I like to think that I'm proud of the fact that I opened with what little I had left and rebuilt a business that's been sustained for coming up on 8 years. Now, that employs members of the community. Now, that's not a bill, as you may ask, but that's just me getting out there and working hard and sucking it up and getting it done. And I believe in small businesses. Any bill that will allow small businesses to thrive, where you've got more folks, and doesn't matter what part of town they're in, they're smart people who want to open businesses, who want to employ members of the community. And right now, it is downright impossible to navigate the chaos of not only with the city, but with the state. I mean, it is just hoop after hoop after hoop. So I'd like to see more efforts from the city and the state who benefit from the tax dollars that we generate and who employ members of the community directly. More deregulation, less heavy taxes, as I always mention. I know this is not a state bill, but this office represents the city, so it's going to have a voice in the city. And that meal tax at 6% on top of the state tax means just regular folks are paying $11.3 in tax money every time they eat. So that's economic development right there, lowering those taxes, because that's more money in citizens' pockets, and that's more business for, I know I'm a restaurant guy, so I'm talking about a restaurant issue, because this is what I know. So that's an opportunity there to reduce taxes, deregulate, and have a state and a city that helps businesses thrive versus suffocates them. Thank you so much.
Let's give us 2 specific things that you would do if you were elected that would help economic development. You thought about your plan that you implement. Just give us 2 specific things that you might introduce.
I don't have a specific plan. I mean, once again, I'm in the bar business, so I would like to see ABC deregulated. That's a big issue for me, and that creates a lot of competition. Now, I know alcohol is a sticky subject to some folks, but it is part of the economy, and monopolies were made illegal 100 years ago. The state does not need to be controlling a monopoly. So that would be something that would not only foster new businesses, but help existing businesses. That's one specific example.
Deregulate the ABC board.
Yeah, definitely deregulate.
It's DC or Maryland.
Yeah, or most states. There's only a handful of controlled states, and we're one of them. So that would probably be priority number 1.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bessie?
May I sit here? Oh, okay. I think one of the biggest things we can do for economic development is support public education and have students that are well trained and being able to take good paying jobs, and that's a big thing. So along with that, and this might Another big thing that you may have heard about is Go Virginia. And this is something that was passed in the Assembly this year, and it will have, it encourages regions to work together to get business there, so that not just one municipality puts in a lot of money and then it's kind of drained out, but a whole region works together in order to make more job creation, more make it economically viable. And so this has taken place this has helped Richmond and helps areas all over the state.
So the question is what policies, what I implement that would benefit people economically. One of the policies I would actually implement is the actual increase in the minimum wage, not up to $15, but actually up to $26.80 per hour, which is what it should be today. When you tie it to the cost of living that which has gone up since the Reagan administration, and worker productivity, which has also gone up. Now, but there are some people that might think that it's a pie in the sky idea, but Franklin Delano Roosevelt, the Democrat president elected 4 times, once said that any business which depends for existence on paying its workers less than living wages has no right to continue in this country. So anybody that's thinking that my idea is a pie in the sky idea needs to go back to a historical lesson and how a business should be run. If you're going to run a business in this state, you need to be willing to pay your workers enough so that they can not only afford your products and services, but also be able to afford a decent living to where they can take care of themselves without government assistance. But speaking of government assistance, another policy I would implement is a universal basic income system where people would be given $15,000 a year without condition just because you exist. Why? Because that's just the human thing to do. We need it's wherever the universal basic income has been tried, has been proven to actually encourage people to want to work more because they have less to worry about. They're less worried about trying to pay for high electric bills or high water bills, which the 69th district faces a lot. So those are the 2 policies that I would implement if I was elected. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Best yes or no?
I said I've got to see the language before I vote on it, so I don't know at this point.
See, the referendum is going to be on the ballot before it goes to the delegate. The referendum on the ballot right now. So the question is, do you support the referendum that's going to be on the ballot? Or do you not say that? Yes, ma'am. It's going to be on the Senate ballot. The referendum is going to be on the ballot. All the signatures are put in. It's going to be on the ballot when people vote in November. And you will vote yes or no that you think that the mayor of Richmond,
what is on the
in
ballot
6 months, is going to plan to say how he is going to provide the fund to modernize the schools. Doesn't say that, or he has to say that I can't do it. We can't do it.
I would like to see that language that we voting on.
Okay.
Yes, I support it. Personally, I believe that that public spaces should not be used to honor any acts of violence or any acts that uphold white supremacy. So to both questions, yes.
And you said yes, you think they should be removed?
Yeah, I believe they should be removed. I also believe that we should rename any schools named after any Confederate leaders and also any state roads or highways.
All right.
Preston?
This is an interesting topic. This is a topic where I had a different opinion a short time ago in the fact that I've supported Mayor Stoney's plan to add context. And I've also always supported adding, these guys aren't even Richmonders on Monument Avenue. I like building statues like we did with Maggie Walker to Richmonders. My opinion changed from the context with what happened in Charlottesville and what might happen on Saturday. And I live 6 blocks from there. And I do not want a bunch of crazy folks from Tennessee coming down and wreaking havoc on my neighborhood. And if these monuments are going to be a magnet for those type of groups continuously, then they got to go. They got to go somewhere. We got to move them, put them in the cemetery, do something. But we can't. This is just going to go on forever. And you know, I thought we were. It's 2017. I thought we were past this. And as far as these groups, and they've come out of the woodwork, and they raised all kinds of hell to our friends in Charlottesville. And right now, they're going to keep coming, and we can't. If they're going to be a destination for white supremacist groups to continue to hold rallies, they can't be here. And honestly, I look for the future of this city. I see a bunch of second-place trophies, and I'm trying to look forward and not glorify a losing effort. And that's just the way it is. I'm glad that Richmond has something else to talk about, like great restaurants. So I'm also for schools that are a sense of pride. I think people should know who their school's named after, and it doesn't make sense to have folks that were fighting to enslave people in primarily African American schools, and how are you going to be proud of Jeb Stewart if you're an African American child and this man was fighting to keep his ancestors from slavery? So change the names. I'm pro-Richmond. Naming after Richmond. Naming after Mr. Richardson here. He served the city well. But that's my opinion on the matter. Thank you so much.
I support the removal of the monuments, and I support renaming of the schools that have offensive names.
So,
Six things in both years compared to last year or last year.
okay, well, the difference between myself and my opponents, but two very different opponents, is, look, I've been involved in this city and been a champion for Richmond my entire life. I've been here, been champion for it. I set up shop, I lived, I worked on Main Street, I built business, I created jobs, I was involved in improving our community, and I've worked with local leaders to do that. So the difference is that I've been doing it from a Main Street level for years now, and I feel like that type of, and talking to these folks and getting to know them, I feel like that type of experience, every type of person in Richmond has walked through the front doors of my restaurant, whether they had no money or a lot of money, and everything in between. And I feel like I've gotten to really know the fabric of this town, and I'm really involved in this town, and I this is my community. I'm here, and I'm not so sure my candidates, and you can of course correct me, I'm not sure if they are as involved at the street level as I am. So, thank you.
Thank you, Jay. That'll be fine.
Thank you. I believe I have a proven record of supporting efforts and important things in our communities, in our schools, in workforce, in restoration of rights, anything from things like our opioid addiction, a number of things that I have worked for in a number of years, and I think my record is proven that. I've been on a number of committees and commissions that allows me to take and support the values of our community there. I also feel that my life experience, working in public schools, working in downtown church, working with other faith communities throughout the city where we've set up mentoring programs, working in the schools, working in the arts, just a number of things that I have been involved on the street in the communities. I attend probably 5 community meetings a week. So I'm in touch with folks on the street, in the community, in the stores, in the schools, in the hospitals, and very privileged to have that relationship and look forward to continuing it.
Well, there are, I would say, some clear, stark differences between myself and my opponents, with no disrespect to them. But one of the things that y'all may have noticed is that I'm outright outspoken, unapologetic, unrelenting, and uncompromising in every viewpoint that I have. Not only that, but I have a unique connection to those in the 69th District. I grew up in poverty. I've been through homelessness, I've been through incarceration, I've survived domestic violence. And there are a lot of people in the 69th District who have also went through those similar struggles, and it's by going through those struggles in my life that I've been able to have that understanding that the world as it is today should not be the way it is today. And that's why in 2010, for example, when GRTC wanted to raise fares on the bus system, I spoke against them, and I've been consistent in always speaking up for the issues that concern the least of us, because I am one of the least of us. And that is what the 69th District truly needs, representing them in the House of Delegates. So that is my clear, stark distinction from my opponents.
Option. So I'm excited right now. You know, this goes back to a big part of the reason why I'm running, to continue what Delegate Bagby said. Gerrymandering is just flat out wrong. And the fact is, they fenced all a certain type of voters in the urban areas, and all a certain type of voters in out in the country. And there's only relatively few districts that are actually being contested. You know, I'm excited that Montague is running in this district, and myself as well. So we didn't have any choices, and none of us are running as Republicans. So I'm running as Libertarian, he's running as Green, and now we have choices. And that's, the fact is, it doesn't have to be Republicans or Democrats. People with the right ideas and people who care about their community. Everybody up here does care about their communities. And otherwise we wouldn't be here, because this job doesn't pay all that much if you look at what it pays. So these are people that really care, who are really involved and need choice. And even though our district is also, both districts, 69th District, I believe, is 60% African American. But to me, they're Richmonders, and we all need the same opportunity, deserve the same opportunity, and there's no reason why everybody should just be fenced in and that vote taken for granted. And because we're all going to prosper if we have choice in parties and our votes actually mean something. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
I have to agree with the fact that the gerrymandering is a big issue because, as they say, they're packed and stacked, and it will be key if we have all of the houses in the General Assembly plus the governor are all in the same party. The redistricting is going to be done according to that party, and there's going to be no stopping that. And it's very key to have a position, having the governor in a different party in order that they can veto, and he can veto whatever comes through the General Assembly, and we can send it back and draw it up in a more fair way. I think that's really crucial. And what happens now is that people that are maybe not given a choice because it is all in one same district. I think this is also leading to the extreme partisanship, not only in Virginia, but in our country. So when people are representing an area that's all one way or the other, if it's a conservative issue, and what happens is the real contest happens in a primary. So that will go, in the conservative issue, the people who are more conservative will win that. In the progressive area, the people will win, the more progressive folks will win in that primary. So what happens is, when people come together, you've got people way out on either ends, rather than people who have had to work together and come toward the center and try to make something happen.
Let me get a little more specific question. When President Trump ran for office, he came into the black community, he said, what have you got to lose if you vote for me, or vote Republican? So in the House of Delegates and in the state Senate, what has the black community got to lose if they vote Republican? That's what we keep. What do we have to lose?
Have you seen the legislation that was
Well,
passed?
tell us about it.
Some of that legislation is more repressive of voting. It cuts down on civil rights. It is against LGBT communities. It is very unwelcoming to our businesses and communities. When you have some of these things in place, big companies with the jobs are not going to move to Virginia when there are these regulations and these things that are set up to make this unwelcoming. It's the kind of thing that happened within Charlottesville. We have, I think, again, the atmosphere that we've had at the top in Washington, and it's kind of manifested itself in places like Charlottesville. It's like it's okay to be hate, to show hate and violence and stuff like that. There's no place for that. There's no place for that. And I think generally, democratic values are not going to be, they're not supporting that. They are supporting something else that's in contrast to that. And so that's what you've got to lose when you vote for something that's manifesting what it is right now in that national.
Thank you, Helen.
So to address the issue that was brought up earlier about gerrymandering, it should be noted that in 2011, I believe, it was basically no opposition to the maps that are currently drawn now. There were no Democrats at the time that voted against the current maps that the General Assembly uses. So therefore, whenever these Democrats come up and say that, well, the Republicans gerrymandered us, no, they cannot claim that excuse. So that one's down on its face. Why you should vote green? Well, let me go ahead and ask y'all a few quick questions. Who has come out in open opposition against the Atlantic Coast and Mountain Valley pipelines? Which party has actually come out in support of net neutrality? I was in Charlottesville, Virginia when the terrorist attack happened. I was right across the street at 4th and Water Street when it happened. I didn't see any other candidates running for office there. That's important. Well, sorry about that, Alan, my bad. But I didn't see any incumbents come down there and come down to Charlottesville and stand up against hate. It was people like me who, like I said earlier, who are unapologetic and uncompromising and unrelenting in their belief that hate should not have a platform, especially in Charlottesville where I was born in, to be able to preach the kind of genocide that they want to carry out against our people. So this is why you should not, in my opinion, vote Democrat. Because the Democrats, in my opinion, have become unwilling to stand up for the values that people really care about. They want to live a life of dignity and love from birth into death, and the Democrats won't even do things as support universal health care or a minimum wage. We got to wait for that. And it's about time we stop waiting and we start seeing Democrats doing something for once.
Macy's.
Yeah.
And I still sue. And the suit is worth $210. That's a felony.
Okay.
In some states, it's up to maybe $2,500 before it becomes a felony, a misdemeanor in other states.
Okay, I understand. I wasn't sure if we were talking about threshold of value or what, but $200 seems awful low. I don't advocate stealing anything, but I mean, I'll be blunt. $200 to have a felony on your record for $200 seems, and of course that felony is going to hinder. People make mistakes. That felony is going to follow those folks around for a long time. So I think that's really, really low. I think that should be raised.
What do you think would be reasonable?
Well, I haven't thought it out until just now.
Okay.
So, I mean, if you're stealing, $5,000 in merchandise, or well, I'll even cut it down somewhere around there. That's a felony. That's a crime that's going to follow you for a while. But $200. I mean, I'm a guy who people steal stuff from me, my store all the time. My little deli and stuff like that. And I'll catch them, and it's not good. But I don't think they should. They stole a couple $100 worth of chips and wine, beer, and sandwiches, I don't think it should follow them around the rest of their life. But I would say $4,000 to $5,000, a higher threshold. But this is the first time I've ever thought about that. So thank you for the question.
Thank you for that.
I've been very supportive of legislation to raise the threshold. It needs to at least come up to, inflation. That I know that it's been very unsuccessful in times, and I don't know if I've had a chance to vote on it this last time or not, but I know that whenever it has been before me, I've been very supportive of that and will continue to be supportive of that.
What would you consider a reasonable threshold?
I think, hasn't the legislation that's been put in, hasn't that been 500?
The government,
Yeah.
right, Lieutenant Governor said $500.
Yeah, so I think that's very reasonable.
Thank you.
So the problem with the previous two answers, I have to admit, is that we're not addressing the actual root cause of why people actually steal things in the first place. They steal things because after they have tried to exhaust every avenue there is to actually acquire a job, to actually maintain care for themselves, they are not able to do so. So that's why they turn to things like selling drugs. That's why they break into people's houses and people's cars and steal things. They do that because they're trying to survive. So what we have to do first, instead of considering the threshold, we need to consider why these people are committing crime in the first place, which is, like I said, they are trying to survive. So how about we create the environment that will actually allow them to survive, that doesn't require them to turn to criminal activity in the first place? But if to directly answer the question, Mr. Walker, I do believe that the $200 threshold is a bit low. I mean, like I said, I've been in that situation before where I've had to steal things because of the fact that I was trying to survive. And I would say, if you would ask me for a threshold, because I haven't even thought about that, but a threshold that I would say is at least $10,000. And I say that because you even have people that's, they steal parts off cars, they, chop shops, they steal rims and things like that. But again, it's not because they necessarily want to steal them because they feel like it. They're just trying to sell them somewhere else, make a few dollars, pay some bills, feed their kids for the night, or pay their rent or what have you. So why don't we focus on trying to make sure that families can take care of themselves before we start trying to raise thresholds? That's where it starts in the first place. Thank you.
Thank you, Monica. Our city's in crisis. What bills have been sponsored or co-sponsored related to gun control? And clearly we understand, Delegate Carl Bessie, that it's a difficult battle with the Republican in the House when it comes to gun control. But have you sponsored any bills?
Yes, I have. I'm very
Let's hear
pleased
about
that
it.
something has passed. I'm very pleased with that. If you all may remember when the little boy was killed coming out from the 4th of July celebration.
Louder, please.
You all may remember when, I think it was about 3 or 4 years ago, the little boy was killed coming out with his father from a 4th of July celebration.
Brandon.
Yeah. So I was able to put in something and got it passed to prevent that celebratory gunfire, and so I'm very pleased that across the aisle support and so forth. So I'm very pleased with that. I have put in legislation about increasing the number of magazines and so forth that were able, and that did not pass. So I supported a number of legislations that did not pass, background checks and so forth. I did support the.
I can't hear you.
Okay. I did support the bill that came through with the background checks that the governor got through. I think that was
celebratory downtown.
We don't need any bills for what you support, such a bill, you worry about it. And why?
So I will personally, full disclosure, I do support the Second Amendment from the Black Panthers' perspective of community self-defense. However, I do believe that the main problem behind the gun violence is that a lot of people have not been taught nonviolent conflict resolution training. So I would like to, a bill that I would like to put forward, and I would like to see the incumbents, if y'all are re-elected, put forward in the General Assembly, is a bill that will require that all public schools and all registered gun owners be required to teach at least one or two sessions of nonviolent conflict resolution training per year. If you're a registered gun owner, you take 2 classes of nonviolent conflict resolution training per year. In the public schools, you teach that to the students twice a year. That's something I would like to see happen, because that's ultimately where we need to what we need to address in order to stop the gun violence. We need to teach our future generations coming up that there is a difference other than using guns to solve your problems. And ultimately, we need to stand up to our federal government because of the fact that they continue to carry out acts of violence against our fellow human beings across the world. There's no sense that we continue to say that Antifa protesters shouldn't be violent or children shouldn't be violent, but yet we see another news report about a Muslim being killed in Iraq or Afghanistan. Thank you.
Support it. What I don't support is us concentrating poverty. We've tried that in the 40s, and that's why we had all the courts. And having mixed income neighborhoods are going to be the success of this city in most communities. And if we support, and we should support affordable housing, yes, I do, but I don't support just saying, hey, draw this circle on this map and say we're going to support it here, and this is where we're going to send everybody. Because then we're just going to have the same concentrated poverty that we've had and we're fighting over the years within the city. And if you give people, surround people, you have more mixed income neighborhoods, and the community's bringing everyone up and not bringing everyone down. So, thank you, and yes, I support any measures to get everybody home, because everybody does need a place to live at the end of the day, or else we go back to the last question with homeless shelters. So, thank you so much.
And let me just take a second and speak to the question. For example, in Richmond, 2 years ago, they put in an affordable trust fund in Richmond. It took dollars from the city council to have to allocate dollars to do that. So I guess the question is, would you be willing to support any type of legislation that would allocate dollars to cities, that would help cities and counties to have dollars to help folks to get affordable housing? That's the question.
I have, on the appropriations committee, I've supported budgets. In fact, the last budget, we have an increase for affordable housing. I support, voted for it. We'll continue to do that kind of thing.
Thank you.
To directly answer the question, yes, I do support providing additional funds to the cities and localities so that they can expand affordable housing opportunities. But I will say this: number one, I believe that the RHA needs to be investigated for the fact that it has been misusing public dollars that could have been used to renovate and modernize public housing. I personally believe that you do not have to displace to concentrate poverty and what have you. I believe that everybody can be where they live and not have to move. You don't have to displace displace people to concentrate poverty. That's a misnomer that we have to put an end to.
That's right.
So, like I said, I believe we need to investigate these public housing authorities for the waste and misuse of public dollars. I also believe that, number one, we need to put Dominion Energy in check, because that's contributing to the affordable housing problem. When they were able to get that 2015 rate freeze passed, that it jacked up the fees and riders that are tacked on everybody's electric bill. Then on top of that, let's look at how much the city charges you for water. And now they're talking about trying to build a water pumping station in Lawrence Park just specifically for a private company like Nestle to be able to bottle and sell water from. So we got to put those kind of corporations in check in order to solve the affordable housing crisis. And now we'll finally simply say this. As it stands now across the nation, there are actually more empty houses than there are homeless people across the country. This is something that we can solve, and I believe this is a community effort. And that begins by us coming together and saying that housing is a basic human right. It is not a commodity, but a basic human right, and it should be treated as such. And anybody who seeks power should be willing to make that bold stand, as I have. Well, I personally, I've seen how the General Assembly has tried to decriminalize it to where it's a civil offense. That's a good effort, but quite frankly, I don't see how we can criminalize something that is naturally produced by God himself. So if I am elected, I will seek to fully decriminalize marijuana to where it's not even an offense to possess, grow, transport, or distribute it, period. Like I said, it's a plant that is grown naturally by God. We should be able to enjoy all of its benefits as intended. We should not be criminalized for it. And quite frankly, I've seen how in Colorado, there are now legal dispensaries, so there's a lot of white people in Colorado that are profiting off of the same crimes that black people have been put in jail for decades on a war on drugs. And so when it comes down to my decriminalization proposal, not only will I seek to fully decriminalize marijuana, but I'll also seek in my legislation, if it is possible, constitutionally possible, to order the governor to issue a writ of actual innocence for every person that was convicted of possession or distribution of marijuana.
Well, I'm a libertarian candidate, and Bob would get after me if I didn't say, of course, what you all expect me to say, and I do support it. I do support legalization. I think it's inevitable. I think this conversation, you've seen already in the House, both Democrats and Republicans say that. You look at Colorado as a model. I live in Fan. There are a lot of people like smoke weed in the Fan, and there are a lot less people in the Fan since they legalized it in Colorado. A lot of folks that just see you later. I mean, I've never known so many people in Colorado. So I think it's inevitable. I don't think it harms anybody. Folks smoking weed are not violent people. They're a hell of a lot more relaxed than I am. And so I think, and they also criminalize, putting folks in jail, I mean, it costs, they mentioned it in the last week, $55,000 to a year annually to keep one person locked up. And these people just locked up for smoking weed. Seems like it's costing a lot of taxpayer money to keep a lot of folks behind bars that really aren't violent, and they may not get on their couch and may not be as motivated as some other members of society, but they're not hurting anybody either. So I support legalization.
Bad stereotype.
I support the decriminalization of marijuana. I'm glad that the Crime Commission this is an issue that's coming up, so I think we're moving forward, maybe slower than some people would want, but I think we're moving in that way. And I've been supportive of legislation, cannabis medication and so forth that's really necessary for some people to survive without seizures and so forth. So even though it's small, there's small steps. Even though these steps are very small, we're moving forward in the right direction. Support legalization. Yeah.
question, Chuck. I think there are forces that are behind that opposition to changing the local composite index formula because they would like to see the destruction of public schools entirely and the institution of private charter schools, which in my opinion would be upholding white supremacy. So if I get elected, I will oppose any efforts to destroy public schools. Now, I would like to see, when it comes to the formula, I would like to see that that all the buildings and whatnot that the state owns, that they not be included in the formula, because that's what's part of the problem. See, the state does not, the state exempts any of and all of its properties from any taxes.
Right.
It's a constitutional amendment, right?
Right.
But when it comes to the local composite index, that state calculates those buildings as if they count. So basically, Richmond is seen as having the same wealth as that of Fairfax County, one of the wealthiest counties in the nation. So we have to, in order for us to address that, we have to stop the state from being able to exclude their properties from paying sales tax. Either that, or they have to stop calculating their properties when they do the local composite index formula. And I would also like to add 3 additional parts of the formula, but there's a lot more than that, like Lamont said. But now to give you my closing, as y'all heard tonight, and you will kind of continue to hear tonight, you will see why I am the man that not only gives a damn about his community, but also has the best plan to move forward in terms of helping out those in the 69th district and throughout all of Virginia. The fact is, ladies and gentlemen, there are a lot of forces that are driving the opposition to the people's agenda. There are a lot of forces that are opposing universal health care, that are opposing a minimum wage increase, that are opposing the people's right to enjoy clean air, land, and water that we all depend on to survive. And as a member of the Green Party, I will fight in the General Assembly to defend those rights because, number one, I have pledged to never accept a dime from corporations or super PACs. I am the only candidate running in the 69th district to have taken that pledge, and we have reaffirmed it several times. Not only that, but I'm a direct reflection of the 69th district. Like I said, I've come from the struggles that the very people in the 69th district face. And as such, I believe it's time for the 69th district to have a person representing them that actually look like them, that actually experience the same struggles that they have. And if we have more people in the General Assembly that look like me, that represented the same struggles like me, then maybe we will actually have some movement in terms of advancing the people's agenda, so that everybody can live a life of dignity and love from birth until death. So I encourage y'all on November 7th, but join me as I fight to build the greater good in the 69th district and for Virginians overall. Thank y'all very much. Have a good night. All my contact information is on my literature, including my website, campaign, Facebook page, Instagram, emails, phone number. So that way, if y'all contact me, you'll contact me directly. All right? I don't play with robots. Talk to me straight up.
Thank you, Mike.
You're welcome.
As far as your question, I met with a member of the head of the Appropriations Committee earlier this week with some folks from Richmond who are concerned about providing more funds for Richmond schools because our children are just as important, just as intelligent, just as creative as other students in the state, but sometimes need more support in the schools and so forth. One of the things that we know being in the General Assembly, the composite school index is not going to change in the next foreseeable few years. What may change is the money that goes, the way that that's lined up, and the SOQ funding. SOQ funding can be changed. And that is one thing that we're trying to do, because if they study that and find out that it costs, say, 20%, 50% more to help to make successful students in areas
It's been a
where.
30-year study.
What?
It's been a 30-year study.
I agree with you, but I'm just saying, you're saying how this happens. So I don't know that this is going to happen, but I'm saying that we're having discussions and trying to look at it from an angle that's going to work with the SOQ funding rather than the composite, because the SOQ funding is up here.
But still, we're running down.
Okay, sorry. Thank you so much. If rehired, I will continue to work on the priorities for our citizens in our district, and as I have done for the time that I've been there. These are the issues: education, jobs, restoration of rights, Medicaid, expanding social justice. They're all important to my constituents, and I hear that every day when I'm out in the community, working in the various places, talking to our constituents in the community every day. Moreover, in this environment, it's very important that we redouble our efforts to fight bigotry and discrimination. We need to be vigilant and rededicated for civil rights. I humbly ask for your continued support and thank you for the opportunity to be with you tonight and for the discussion that we had.
To answer Mr. Richardson's question very simply, it's there's some schools that are thriving and some schools that are not. So obviously the ones that aren't thriving are going to need a little more funding, a little more attention until we bring them all up. Because without this school system, without these school system working, the city of Richmond is not going to live up to its potential. These are the future of Richmond. Everything touches on this school system. We talked about affordable housing and low job rate, et cetera, et cetera. Everybody, all that is solved, and the crime rate, all that is solved if we simply have better schools. And there's no reason why we shouldn't have as good of schools as the counties and the city. And so, I'll go ahead and wrap it up in time. I want to thank Mr. Walker for having me, tracking me down, and also like to thank my opponents and wish them all luck. Although we have different visions on how we get there, we all share the same goal of seeing our city become a better place for all its citizens, no matter race, ethnicity, and what part of town they live in. Our city has great momentum right now, but we need to ensure that all our citizens are riding this wave by ensuring responsible spending of your tax money, safe communities, quality education, respect for personal liberties, and cultivating a culture of opportunity in our city can ensure a bright future for each and every one of our citizens, for not just everyone here right now, but for generations to come. I'd like to represent our city's interest, our community's interest, not party interest. As a libertarian, there's none of us in the state legislature right now. So I am not there to represent any party's interest. I'm there to build bridges and there to be truly a voice to our people. So I'd like to be that voice. I was going to say I'd like to be a loud voice. But Mr. Magruder has some lungs on it, so I'm happy to beat on that. I request your vote and your consideration on November 7th. My website is jakeycrocker.com. Once again, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here and looking forward to a very eventful next couple of months. Thank you so much.